Hello and welcome to yet another live stream of Mad About Sports. And we're back talking about sports once again. And today we're going to be talking about Ashes because the first Ashes test starts today. And that's, of course, the World Test Champions Australia taking on England in England's own backyard. This is the most anticipated series of the year because England has been playing the most impressive round of cricket with baseball, and Australia coming off the World Test Championship victory. So there are a lot of narratives to talk about. It's a good build-up for the series. And of course, I have Antariksh with me. Antariksh, how anticipated are you for the series? Because this seems to be one of those series which everybody wants to look at because it's
Yeah,
unlike any other Ashes. Because if you look at the previous Ashes, it was one team who was going into that series with a lot of dominance, and it was never on an equal footing. And finally, after so many years, you can say it is going to be a series on equal footing where we're going to start off with Ashes
absolutely.
series.
Absolutely. Like it feels like ashes after a long time that we're
Yeah,
gonna we're gonna witness two teams like in probably their absolute best form of in terms of test cricket for the past, I would say, half or more of a decade.
yeah,
So it's gonna be pretty interesting. As you said, for the last many years, it was, if it's in England, it's most probably England who's on the front foot. If it's in Australia, it's maybe Australia leading the pack. But now it's like it seems, especially after you had to mention the world test champions Australia, are freshly crowned,
yeah.
very sort of in their stride, and they have been in England for quite some time. And as we saw, quite many of their players opted out of the IPL to stay in that zone in England, not just for the championship final but also
Yeah,
for the Ashes, which is a quick turnaround. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, just in like a week or so, and we're back for cricket
yeah,
with Australia. And on the other hand, there is England, and what more needs to be said about the baseball, which is going on.
yeah.
I think it'll be the
Yeah.
battle of the Kiwis in the back room, Vittori versus Brendan McCullum. So that could be something to look out for. Maybe they'd have a ball or two in the nets, but yeah, very
True. I
interesting.
mean, that's going to be very interesting as well because there's another narrative to talk about it. Because when we talk about all these things around it, we don't talk about the Kiwi involvement in both of these teams because basketball is surrounded around Brendan McCullum and it's Ben
Absolutely.
Stokes, who's another Kiwi in the who's there, who's leading the English team. So it's a New Zealand battle ultimately if you look at things. Uh,
Yeah.
Deciding series for world cricket. Absolutely, it's a new cycle in the World Test Championship, and
Oh,
what a
big
way
one.
for it to start, right? Because finally you have a cycle where England is competitive because majority of the last cycle, England were not a team who was not competitive until last year when Ben Stokes took over.
Yeah,
Even though
exactly.
England's home, Australia looks like the favourites. Looks interesting though. Can you call Australia the favourites at this point of time, or are there any favourites at all? If you have to
Oh,
start off by talking about it, if you look at one end, England looks like the most formidable team out there. The
yeah,
entire system or the Test cricket system in India, England has changed since the time Rob Key took over English cricket, and he wants it to be more batting friendly. So that was
yeah,
the whole thing, right? England are unable to produce batters who can go out there and score runs
yeah, yeah.
because the pitches were extremely tough. If you look at the last,
Absolutely.
uh, if prior to 2022, the last 7 or 8 years, it
Yeah,
was the batters were just surviving on knife edge. There was a good ball and the batters were
yeah.
out. Now you have seen more flatter tracks. Yesterday, for example, in a county game, 500 runs were chased down in the fourth innings by
Mm.
Surrey. So
Yeah,
that's what we're
yeah,
talking about: flatter tracks,
yeah.
quicker runs, and both the teams like to play attacking brand of cricket.
Absolutely. And whatever, like, one may disagree or agree with the strategy, whatever they use, even for the preservation of this form of cricket, and some are quite critical about the style which is being used. But one thing is for sure, even in life or in cricket or in any form of cricket, is like whatever guns you stick out to, you stick to them for a long period of time. Let it do its work. So that is what they're grooming, even in their sort of county cricket as well, wherein they are giving out pitches to the upcoming batsmen who in that particular way they'll be groomed so that when they actually come into the senior team setup, they are actually ready for
Yeah,
it. So we have like, to be honest, like, if you really look at the team, I mean, there's a reason why England wasn't really successful after the likes of Peterson, Bell, Cook,
yeah,
them sort of trot, leaving out the England team, like, bit by bit, sort of replicating the Indian stance, wherein we had Lakshman, Dravid, Sachin, and Sehwag, Gambhir sort of leaving bit by bit. This a mini sort of that format happened, and if you really look at them, I mean, it's Pope, it's Crawley, it's Duckett, it's Brook,
yeah,
so
yeah,
there's no
absolutely.
seniority. Of course there is
Yeah,
Root and there's Stokes, but
yeah,
I mean, come on, like, So that's it. So I think this is the only brand of cricket where these guys could actually produce the results they're producing.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Stokes' record as a captain is 10 on 11, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal, for
And
a
the only test
captain.
which he lost was by 2 runs against New Zealand on the final day there. So
Exactly,
that's how close
exactly.
it was.
Yeah,
So he's
yeah.
never
I
really
was
lost a test match.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a friend, and he just mentioned this cute little stat. He said Stokes became the first captain in the history of Test cricket to win a Test match without batting or bowling.
Yeah,
So he did that versus Ireland. So that's that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Even against Ireland, if you look, they've been in good form. I mean, Oli Pop scoring a
mm,
double hundred of 200, 205 balls. So you can talk about that
man,
strike rate. But let's put out, I think it's a good segue to talk about English squad as we put up the score on the screen right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
look at
yeah,
the
yeah.
squad, we pretty much know what's going to be there, right? We're going to see
Absolutely.
Johnny Bairstow is an interesting inclusion. Not sure if he's going to be starting for today's game, but if it's going to be Harry Brook who's going to be playing today. Then, of course,
Yeah,
when we talk about the batters, Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett. Zach Crawley, yeah, he's definitely got some issues up there, especially when it comes to him being consistent enough, but he still can score a lot of runs. In this new
yeah,
system, he's working out well. Now, when we talk of Ben Duckett, since his new advent into the test squad from 2022 in Pakistan, he's really done a good job. He's definitely not
absolutely,
disappointed
exactly.
them. And when you talk about the biggest inclusion for the series or the callback from retirement has been Moeen Ali because of the
Oh yeah,
fact that Jack Leach is injured. I think we have Moeen Ali twice mentioned in the screen, but nonetheless, Moeen Ali is only once there. It's only one Moeen Ali we're talking about. So Moeen Ali is there and he can do all the three jobs. So it doesn't matter if his name is mentioned two or three times because he is an all-rounder. He can do as a batter, he can do as a bowler as well. So never mind. So that's what we're talking about. And alongside that, the ever old James Anderson, Stuart Broad, and Mark Wood and Chris Wokes. Now, this looks like a complete package, isn't it? You have a Stuart Broad, you have a Anderson to do the experience work. Then you have all rounders in Chris Wokes, Ben Stokes, and even if you want to add Ollie Robinson into that list, you can. So this looks like a team who is conditionally equipped to play in all these conditions, like Edgbaston talks to start off with, and all these
absolutely.
conditions they are equipped. And James Anderson is just getting better and better with every season he's playing.
Absolutely, man. You mentioned those pitches which they're sort of constructing to favor the batsman. I think because they're just too confident about the conditions that England have. Like, despite the pitch, it's like it has to do nothing with the pitch. It's just the overcast conditions, the Duke's ball, and the magicians which are on it. I sort of I like to pull out references from one game to another. So I sort of replicate these two older gentlemen maestros to Real Madrid's midfielders. It's like Cruz and Modric,
Yeah,
Broad and Anderson.
yeah,
They England just can't sort of lose hold of them because even at this age, like even how they're being talked about, they are the best performances that England have in terms of the
yeah,
bowling department. And
yeah.
how astute is their sort of belief in their system that one injury, like one absence of a spinner, and they have to actually call someone out from retirement to actually because they're not interested in the spin department. They're clear about their priorities. Like they just have
Yeah,
no interest in spinning the ball around.
they're
They
pretty
don't
much
want to
clear.
include a spinner. They've gone in with, I don't know, the 100th all-rounder in the squad now. So man, they are
Yeah,
just full. They need everyone who can bat. They
yeah,
even if they're 8 down, they still want to score 4 5 runs per over. So
yeah,
that's the mentality. That's the sort of approach they've taken, and it is
yeah.
working wonders for them. So
And
why
I just
not?
want to ask you this. People have a lot of criticism on baseball because they say it's trying
Yeah,
to disrupt the test cricket and the
yeah,
balance of test cricket. But you reckon ultimately the whole point we play the game is to get victories, right? You want to go out there
yeah,
and win. Doesn't matter how you get the win. Now,
yeah,
even in football, when the whole pragmatic system was brought about, a
yeah.
lot of people did not like it because they were of the opinion that okay, this is not the right way to do something. But ultimately, what matters is you want to get the results. It doesn't matter how you get it, but it's about getting the results. And England believes they do not have the technique to go out there and play a defensive game, except maybe for a root except just root. There's nobody who has got that proper technique to go out there and maybe play a long awaiting game. They've got the players to go out there and smash it and score runs, and they like so be it. They're still scoring more runs than what they could do by playing defensive brand of cricket. They're able to score 600 now by playing defensive brand of cricket. They were scoring 450.
I mean, I don't know, man. I really love watching England, but I just can't put my mind because I'm a very, how should I say, I'm a very sort of old,
Traditionalist,
accustomed guy when it comes to sports. I
yeah,
like it. Like I like I was against VAR. I was I like the human element in the game, which has been going
Yeah.
on for the past 100 or whatever years. So, but it because since childhood when I used to see cricket, especially Test cricket, it was like, you know, all I remember an Indian team who used to fall out for 150 in England every game, and out of 10, 8 dismissals were them trying to defend a ball and ball carrying to the slips
Yeah.
and getting caught, and that was just happening all over again. But then I sort of questioned, why don't they just smack it around the park for a couple of overs, and then the field would sort of go up. So I'm not
Yeah.
really able. It's my ethics on one end, and it's my sort of practicality on another. Because as you
Yeah.
say, defense ke run thodi mil rahe hain. You,
Yeah.
you don't get you don't get
Yeah.
runs for actually just
Yeah.
defending the ball.
Absolutely.
Maybe where I sit on it is, see, I like the fact, like, it's very, you go, oh my god, he just did that. Like, I don't know, I can't digest the fact that pacers are being reverse swept in tests. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to me. Like, I want that one format, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like as I said, I'm not really able to pick my weight here, but
Yeah.
that is where I believe keep Maro, like, you can slog it, you can
Yeah.
you can hit through the
Yeah.
covers over the
But
top.
you have to still say England has not really been, opposed with the tests, right? They played in
Yeah.
Pakistan,
Oh,
great.
absolutely.
They played against Ireland. They played against New Zealand. Okay, New Zealand was a challenge, but New Zealand pitchers, you still have to say this New Zealand team is now on a transitional phase. So they've not really been put up against challenge in India on a rank turner or in
No,
Australia on quick wickets as to how they can go about it. And this team is pretty much
absolutely.
equipped to do it as well. It's not like they're not. But the biggest challenges come when they travel abroad, like in South Africa or especially not in South Africa rather, but in India and in Australia, and against
Absolutely,
quality oppositions at home. So
absolutely. They go into the subcontinent giants, which is India, and then they play in our backyard, and then let's see, because you can't baseball around there because Ashwin will be turning from over one, and you can't step out and hit him out like Brendan McCullum does. So that is one, and then as you said, New Zealand is, I don't know, I'd call it a mini England in terms of
yeah,
what the conditions are.
yeah,
The grounds are smaller, and I
yeah,
think the overcast conditions and everything sort of matches out there.
yeah,
It'll be Australia, the Perths of this world, and the Brisbane and stuff, wherein they'll get some chin music. So
yeah,
again, man, as you said, good test, be it in their backyard, but a good test to begin with. And the
absolutely,
one thing which is which sort of I really like about this England, they've got quality fast bowlers in every realm. Like
yeah,
they have a James Anderson, who is Anderson like nothing.
yeah,
Then there is Broad, who sort of a mini hit the deck bowler, also a mini
yeah,
swinger of the ball. Then
yeah,
there is Potts, Tongue,
yeah,
Mark Wood, who just smack the ball on the ground,
yeah,
like they
yeah,
just. And then there is Ollie Robinson, who I sort of compared to the Josh Hazelwoods and the Bolans
yeah,
of this world.
yeah,
Very sort of line in length, and
yeah.
keep, so like they've
Keep it
just got
going.
it all in terms of fast bowling,
Yeah,
which just
absolutely.
covers a lot of departments for them.
Absolutely. And for Australia, see, they're coming off a test, and that's going to be really, really wearing them out as well because they just played a very high intensive final. And they'll be happy that they won it, but it's again moving on to a new series. It's reboot from ball one. It's a new cycle for Patrick Cummins once again. One of the
Yeah,
biggest tests for Patrick Cummins as well because this is possibly his biggest major series. Okay, Ashes in Australia was big, but Ashes in Australia, you saw a different England turn up. It was not the England
absolutely.
like this. It was an England which was depleted, England which was low on self confidence. Uh, so there's a very interesting thing Rahul Chaubey says. We do not know how long will England's basketball team play last, but as long as it lasts, it's face regarding which way it'll be able to sing folklores for 20 years down the line. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree
fair
with you
enough.
because this is a system like we talk about in football, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona of
Yeah,
2009, or if you're going to remember City of 2023, or we're going to talk about some Johan Cruyff's system, or something of that. So Jose Mourinho's Inter, it's something like that. It's going to be a philosophy which is going to change. We're talking about Owen Morgan's white ball revolution, and we're going to be talking about baseball revolution, red ball in similar tone. I think we have to talk about the players. I think Steve Smith, everybody's talking about it. So let's bring him on the screen. I mean, his record in England is just incredible. Coming off 100 in the last game against India, looks very, very, very good. Doesn't look like anything can raffle him at this point of stage. He's got to go out there, play gritty if need be, play quick if need be. And alongside him is going to be another man who replaced him in the last Ashes when he was hit and he was out for concussion was Marnus Labuschagne. I mean, he's back to where it all began for him. So how? are you going to see these both? Because even if Warner has got a negative matchup, but that 3 and 4 of Australia, and maybe at Travis Head out there, they are going to be the key players for this entire team.
Absolutely, absolutely. As much as we've talked about the English team, I think on paper, as we talked earlier as well, it's the Australian team that looks flawless. Of course, you cover the games and stuff, but when a team plays against your own country, then you really see the opponents pretty closely. And when I just saw that team, I mean, there were no sort of loopholes or anything I could find. Ki, Arey yaar, yahan par we could exploit or something. So man, from the top, there's Khwaja and there's Warner. Then the two guns come in. Then there is some. If you're in a bit of a muddle, then there is Travis Head, who gets you out of it. And then they have their keeper scoring, and they have a good all rounder. They found their own version of a BTEC Stokes. So I mean, it's flowing. It's flowing for Australia, and they have names which are big, and they are full of experience and expertise to play in the conditions as well as the pressure. So I mean, on paper, Australia do it for me every day of the week. So
Yeah.
pretty sort of yeah. I mean, a pretty sort of big up ask in terms of for England to upset these guys. Not in terms of the result, but in terms of the names that they are. So yeah, man.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think we've got some interesting questions here, so I think we will take some questions. What do you say?
Yeah.
We'll take up the question which okay, we already took up Rahul Chaube's question, and Kundan says Jimmy Anderson is really the goat. Yes, he is. He's just 15
Oh
wickets
yeah.
away from 700. So, if there
Wow.
has been a goat at the age of 40 picking up wickets like this, you have to say longevity, being a fast bowler, he will go down as the greatest of all
700
time.
as a fast
Big
bowler
run.
is just amazing. 700 as a fast bowler. It's just amazing.
I mean, it's just about time. Is it going to be this test match or maybe no, not this test match, maybe the next test match, the next 3 test matches?
Imagine if it's
Definitely
this
will
test
see.
match. God help Australia.
You never know. You never know. Can Australia go unchanged level? Most likely, Boland might start because Hazelwood is still not there and thereabouts. So I think
Yeah.
Boland, remember, he just
I
picked that. He's
mean,
coming off a great game.
irrespective, he deserves it, man. Boland was the best Australian bowler, in that game. He's just so relentless with his line and length. He's actually like the traditional,
Yeah.
I'll not bowl fast, but I'll irritate you like by just bowling there and thereabouts. He was just
Yeah.
relentless in his line and length.
Absolutely. If you
Fantastic.
look at the squad as well, the possible replacements they have, see, they have got a very strong squad when it comes to their fast bowling
Absolutely.
contingent, with Mitchell Stark being there. The only issue is Mitchell Stark's rhythm and Patrick Cummins' rhythm. They both look a little rusty after playing after a long
Yeah.
time, but then Boland really kept that one thing in check. He was a one-man show, as Antariksh rightly mentioned. But if you look at the bowling contingent, you can understand majorly it's going to be Nathan Lyon, who's going to bowl a lot of overs once again
Yeah.
because of he'll be bowling to Ben Stokes. He'll be bowling to someone like a Ben Duckett. So he will do a lot of the work. But even Cameron Green, for that matter, who's going to hold one end up. If George Hazelwood comes back into the series, he definitely comes in the place of squad bowling. But I would like to have Mitchell Stark replaced by George Hazelwood, primarily because of what
Absolutely.
these both can do. Mitchell Stark, he will leak a lot of runs, and Bass ball system likes that kind of a bowler to go against. So that's my whole concern over here.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I won't call it a concern as of yet, but I think what sort of my intuition tells me is someone like a Boland, who sort of balls a length which is a wicket taking length, but if you compare baseball to it, so you forget Test cricket, they're there to score runs. So I might as well compare it to an ODI length or a T20 length. So in when you change the formats, that particular length becomes the length to smack the ball around. So I don't know. I maybe expect if Boland bowls over there, like on the money in that particular line and length, I think they might step out and try to upset his rhythm. It'll be important to see as to how they take on Boland and his line and length. And
Yeah.
Stark, as you said, they really like the ball coming onto the bat, good pace. And if Stark does leak runs and them already playing the style they play, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that replacement if Stark is not having a good series from the word go. But then it's Stark,
Yeah,
right? Come the big occasions, come the big tournament, he's a man for big occasions. Especially
absolutely.
Ashes, we saw last time the first ball of the Ashes, he got the wicket. So that's how he is.
Yeah,
He sets the tone straight
yes.
up, and he might not need that one game to get into the groove. And you don't discount a play like Mitchell Stark. He can come in and do a job any time of the day. We'll take some questions once again because there are some really good questions out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Rahul Chaubey says that they will look to play with this approach in India as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how they go about it. It's the best rivalry ever with Australia being the champions now, and exactly. And now this is why this is the best Ashes we are anticipating after a long time. Even
Absolutely.
2019, we don't have this kind of anticipation. Though it went down the wire, the urn was retained by Australia, but you have to say in terms of equal footing, this is the best Ashes we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Himself admitted that he and his management have instructed cricketers to prepare decks that go on to become flatter eventually. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about from a perspective of this matchup, right? Because
Mm.
for this matchup to especially work out, Warner was abroad. You need pitches which are slightly more conducive to swing. And Australia and English bowlers will definitely know their bowlers, especially Anderson and Broad, will definitely be in the game throughout the 90 overs if the ball does something. Now, in England at this point of stage, the conditions are very hot. You saw that in the WTC as well. It's hot. It's speaking summer out there. It's not a lot of overcast conditions. So you need something out of the pitch. If you're going to prepare flatter decks alongside the batting approach where you're relied on swing ballers, that's might just backfire to England, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I said, England has a lot. England just have the lot. They have a lot of options. I mean, of course, Stuart Broad and Anderson start, but it's about the spells they're given at which point of time. They see with the new ball, it's not doing much in the air. In place of a 6, 7, 7, 8 over spell, they'd be given a 5 over spell, and that is when the likes of Wood or Potts or Tongue or someone just comes in and bowls, an over or two from either end to check out how the pitch is doing. So they just have the lot, and who knows? Even Robinson could start. They could have a three-way, just shifting ends and stuff. So it's baseball after all. I was reading an article and people, and a very good point out there was written. I don't remember the exact stat, but basically the gist of the article was that people are really focusing on the batting side baseball, but baseball, they need to focus on the word ball here as well. And baseball isn't just for the batters out there; it's also for bowling and how they have gone on and sort of
Yeah,
changed around with their length, and now they are much more aggressive in their nature.
yeah,
Like they expect the opponent to be as defensive as they're offensive. So I mean,
yeah,
it's a complete shift when they're bowling.
yeah,
It's not as if they're playing baseball, so they expect the other team to hit around as well, and they spare the field. They bowl sort of defensive links. No, I think again, as I said, I don't remember the stat, but it was something that England have sort of taken, I don't know, 50 wickets or 70 wickets in the last 7 matches that they've played.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
before Basball or before
yeah,
Stokes, they've taken only an average of 14, 13 wickets
yeah,
for the past 10, 20 test matches.
yeah,
So that really tells us that, it's not just the batting, it's also the bowling and the
yeah,
selection they've gone. As I just
yeah,
mentioned, Tongue
yeah,
has been included into the
yeah,
squad. Mark Wood has sort of
yeah,
gotten back from topsy
yeah,
turvy a couple of years. So
yeah.
yeah, it's just great
Yeah, I
overall.
agree with you totally. And that's why I personally, I'm just making a prediction. I still think England will start as favorites 60-40 for the series.
Hmm.
I know it's a bold prediction, but why I say that is because Australia World Test Champions agreed to that fact. But Australia have vulnerabilities in that team. We've seen that in India. We've seen that in WTC as well. You put this team under pressure. If you can get a couple of wickets up front, this team looks to crumble. This team looks to crumble primarily because of what they don't have. They have a Steve Smith, yes. They have a Marnus Labuschagne, yes. But can Travis Head come out and pull them out of the hole every time? He has got his limitations. But in comparison with an English team, their role clarity is very simple. They have a very
Yeah,
clear head. And that's what I'm talking about. When you have a clear head with a clear approach, you tend to slightly overweigh against the other team. You tend to do slightly more better. And that's why I slightly think England are the favorites, but not clear cut favorites. The things
yeah,
can turn around very quickly. If Australia wins the first test match, Australia will be on the upper hand. Australia will have the upper hand. They will know that it's just about winning one more test match or a couple more here and there, and they can possibly get back the Ashes. So it's just
Hmm.
it's just about maintaining that consistent amount of pressure. And Australia, don't give up. That's the best trait about them. They don't give up very easily as well. And you can't dominate Australia by saying that we will defeat them 4-0 or 5-0. That's not what I'm talking about. Here, what I'm talking about is just that England's current set of form and the clarity of mind which they've gotten every player is slightly more better in comparison with Australia's batting order.
Yeah, Abel, but that is where I believe, another thing which we've sort of lagged in Ashes for the past 6, 7 years has been aggression, pure aggression. I don't know. I just remember Mitchell Johnson the last time I saw Ashes and
Yeah.
saw some form of aggression. And if, I actually believe the set of players, as I said, Duckett, Crawley, Pope, like, no disrespect to anything, but in terms of the grand scheme of things, they're kids in Test cricket, right? Like they are actually kids in Test cricket in terms of the
Yeah.
experience they hold. So if the game does turn, and I really hope it does, it takes the aggressive front. It's like an Ashes and not just a Test match. It's being played like an Ashes match, the first match of your sort of the start of the new cricketing year, and it's the first match, and it's the Ashes which is coming again. And I think if it's played, we may see some new English faces crumbling down under the pressure because they also know, these guys have grown up watching the
Yeah.
Ashes and
Yeah.
they know what Ashes is. And now
Yeah.
then, Stark, okay, by wicket mat le do, but, go and stare down the soul of,
Yeah.
Duckett and Crawley, make them feel the pressure there. So
Yeah.
that is where I believe, because as I said, although you are absolutely spot on about the role clarity, what they have, and we saw against India as to how Travis had to pull them out of, a hole, and even their keeper Carey, and even
Yeah.
Stark who played that knock of 50. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it would have been a 300-ish target for India, and
Yeah.
it would have been a different story. But anyways,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. There are vulnerabilities, and if you get those two, Labuschagne and Smith, Australia look a bit crumbled. But again, on the
Yeah.
on the flip side, as I said, if Cummins and Stark are onto the new sort of new breed of
That's why
English
I personally
batsmen,
think Boland is going to be a massive factor in today's game,
oh,
because if it's
absolutely.
not going to be easy to attack Boland. Boland has the best
Yeah.
economy rate in the entire WTC cycle, and number two is
Hmm.
James Anderson. So we're talking
Yeah.
about a bowler who's extremely economical, extremely tough to attack,
His
and
economy is going to
English
be
bat-
tested, Will. His economy
yes.
is going to be tested this time.
And not just that, and if Boland can keep them quiet, then English batters are going to get all the jitters. They're going to be like, no, we don't play like this. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's going to be like, this is not what we do. We should
Yeah.
try something out of the box. And that's where Australia
That's
gets
where.
opening. And that's where Australia will be out. Remember, last time Boland made his debut against England, his figures were crazy. You saw
Yeah.
build a man a statue outside Melbourne. That's what everyone were talking about. Now, that is what Boland can do. And we don't
Yeah.
talk about him enough because he's the guy who doesn't take all the limelight. But I think if the wicket outlets have to be created by pressure, it's going to be on Boland. And even with Cummins, if Cummins hits the lengths, it's tough to attack Cummins in Test
Oh,
format.
absolutely.
So it's these two bowlers who are going to be extremely tough to get away with. And Stark, of course, might leak a lot of runs because of him being with that extra pace. But at the same time, he's also going to create opportunities. If Stark goes to his defensive side of bowling by bowling it full, and his defensive side of bowling is also his attacking side of bowling. If he can get
Yeah.
slide or shape in into maybe a Crawley, into someone like a Joe Root up front, we know what he can possibly do. He can
Yeah.
go and run through a lineup. So yeah, as I think we just saw a comment over here which said that if any team can really breach the bias ball approach, it's Australia, and I also admit to that. Because of the fact that the bowling attack is very 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 clear. They've
Yeah.
got a very solid bowling attack, and similarly with the batting attack, that's why I think this is going to be the most hardly contested Ashes. The war of words have already begun, which seems to be saying a couple of years back itself. It's not going to be easy. It's not a cakewalk to go attack every game. And Harry Brooks saying the faster the ball comes out of the bat, the quicker it goes to the boundary. So it's very clear in terms of the confidence both the teams share. And I think it's going to be a spicy Ashes after a long time. And that's why, for cricket fans, this is going to be the best series of the year. So buckle up for the next 5 Test matches. You are in for a treat.
Absolutely, man. Very excited as we discussed at the beginning. After a long time, it feels like Ashes is back. And that's primarily due to how both teams are shaping up. And the wars have begun, as you said, off the field. And it's just about time that we see it on the field as well.
Yeah.
And good point there by Smith and you mentioning it that it's easier said than done. You go and attack every game because that's not how the frame of the game works. So let's see, man. Very excited for this one. The first
Yeah.
test maybe sets the tempo for the whole series. Who knows?
Yeah. I think, Prathamesh, I personally think even if baseball fail, they will still back themselves to play the same brand of cricket. I mean,
I mean,
that is their only
like,
plan right now.
Pratmesh, like, what do you mean baseball fails? Like, if it fails, it's baseball B, like it's baseball C, because
Yeah.
it's not like a tactic. It's like how they play. Like it
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just don't see them. I mean, what is failing? Like, you go out defensive. We've seen a lot of teams bundle out on 130, 50, 116 tests. So, like, the thing with baseball is you strike the ball, you get 10, 15 boundaries. That's almost 100 runs if
Yeah.
you add the singles and
Yeah.
doubles. So, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what the failing sort of there means. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just going to be
You know
baseball.
what I'm excited about? England to bat first today and see how they go about, because
Mm,
today's first session
absolutely.
will tell where the Ashes is
Absolutely.
heading to. Because today's first session will
Absolutely.
give a clear indication as to what the mindsets are like, where it is going to be like, how it can sustain,
Yeah.
and it's going to be interesting.
And I
It's not
want to
going to be
see,
easy.
Abel, if England bat the way they do, would Australia be tempted? Like it's that natural human aggression, like, hum bhi marenge, sort of, their attitude.
Yeah,
Would they go on
yeah,
to that, or would they be the side that we saw against India, scoring at about three and a half per over and stuff?
yeah.
Or would they go and no, we'll match them 5 per over and stuff? Let's see. It's gonna be
Let's see. Let's see. It all
interesting.
depends. If they go 5 per over and get all for 250, Australia will be like, see, this is what happens. They went 5 per over, but got all out in 45 overs. But
Yeah.
that's the whole point over here. Can they do it, or will England be able to score 400 odd runs in a day? Because when they score 400 runs a day. They batted 5-4, and Kushagra says England to win. Uh,
Okay.
okay, finally, before we end, what do you reckon the scoreline of the series is going to be? I'm not saying who's going to win. What's the scoreline? I think it's going to be a 3-2.
Okay. Oh, all right. So you just go out and say 3-2 without saying who's winning.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be 2-2, and last match someone's going to take it.
All right, all right. I'm tempted to say 4-1. I don't know to who, but
Or
I'm
I think
tempted.
it's going to be 2-1 as well. Why? Because some of the flatter decks, I'm scared there wouldn't be the result, because both the teams are going to bat, and you might see a draw here
That,
or
that
there. This is going
yeah,
to be.
that is what I was sort of maybe thinking about as well. Maybe it could actually end up in a draw. Some of the tracks that, but I don't know the pace at which they play. Even if England do end up scoring, 600, 700, it's gonna happen in like what 1.5 day. So I don't know, man. I'll go with you as well. I don't know. How, are you sticking to 2-1 or I don't know?
Okay, this is
But
very interesting. Prathamesh is 3-1 for England. Oh, it's a possibility though. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I'll go with 3-2. I don't see who, but I'll go with 3-2
Yeah,
as well.
3-2. 3-2, I'll just put it there. If anybody can do that 3-2, it's going to be an historic series. We're going to be talking about it forever. So
Absolutely.
that's what's going to be very interesting about it. But at the same time, basketball, whatever criticism it has, which is all hooked us on to watching Test cricket once again with interest.
Hmm.
Because there was a time where like,
Good
it's
point.
boring, we don't
Good
have
point.
time.
Yeah.
But you want to still watch, you want to still see what's happening, because we all have that T20 mindset. Whatever you say, you still want to see attacking brand. You still want the ball to go to
Absolutely.
the boundary. That's an inner instinct in you. Don't cap, guys. Don't try to say that you want to see a solid defense and you want to see the ball leaving, but you all want to see the ball flying to boundary. So because of that very fact, I think we all are hooked on to basketball because of this reason. In Australia, are very oriented size unless the weather plays spoils, but I'm not expecting the game to end in a draw. Uh,
Yeah. Fair enough.
yeah, let's see how it goes. That's why we have to see how this first test match plays out. All will depend on the first session, I believe, to set a tone for the series. Because often in the
Exactly.
last few Ashes series, the first session sets the tone, or the first ball of the game for the next time. The last couple of series is set the tone for the entire Ashes. So yeah, I mean, I know it's a bit of a hearsay here and there, but I'm just saying that first session matters. If England are going to bat, if England can score maybe 120 in the first session, that's all going to be like, see, England can still
Oh.
do it.
Yeah.
Then Australia are going to be in the back foot. But if Australia picks up 3 wickets in the first session, then they're going to be like, see, basketball is not working. So that's what I'm trying to say. So the
Hmm.
questions will be put on each other's head the moment if it's a dominant start for either of them. So thank you guys for joining. It was beautiful to take all lot of questions. Some wonderful questions came our way. So we're very sorry if you're unable to take one of your questions, if you missed out on something. So keep joining. We'll be back almost every day possible, or every 2 days, to review where it stands, because it's only fair if we come and talk about where it stands, because at the end of the test match we can definitely do it, but where it stands from a perspective. So we'll be back, we'll be talking about it, and also remember we'll be doing a transfer talk, because a lot of things is happening in the football side of things as well. So we'll be doing that, and we'll talk about where our favorite team should be doing and rebooting, because we have got 2 more months for football season, but cricket season is definitely on once again, and it's back to Ashes. So have a good day, all of you. Enjoy the game, and let's see who's got the upper hand. Thank you and have a good time. And do not forget to share this video with all your friends and family, and also subscribe to our channel. And also do give a follow on our Instagram page. And if you are an aspiring cricket analyst, do check out our courses with Mad About Sports. Bye bye and take care.